N. It's about uncovering what's real. It's not about returning to the past, but rising from it. So today, as you listen to these words, I want you to ask yourself one question. Not, why did this happen to me? But, what is this trying to teach me? Because that question, my friend, is where your true rebuilding begins. The collapse is not a punishment. It is the beginning of transformation. Life has a mysterious way of dismantling what is no longer meant to sustain. Rebuilding yourself begins when you stop running from the wreckage. You cannot rebuild while you are still mourning the architecture of your past. You must look directly at what has been broken, not with despair, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what truth is this collapse trying to show me? What part of me needed to die for something new to live? Every ending holds a quiet purpose. The old version of you was not a mistake. It was a stepping stone. It carried you as far as it could, and now the soul demands a deeper expression. The collapse is the moment you are forced to confront your inner emptiness, to listen to the silence that follows the noise. That silence is not loneliness, it is creation waiting to happen. It is the stillness before the dawn. When life shatters, you begin to see how fragile your attachments truly were. Perhaps you tied your worth to people who never saw your soul, or maybe you built your identity on achievements, roles, or material things that could not endure the storms. The collapse takes those illusions away to remind you that your value was never outside of you. Everything external is temporary, but the essence of who you are cannot be destroyed. The breakdown reveals that truth. It forces you to recognize that your strength does not come from control, but from surrender. Only when you stop resisting the fall can you begin to rise, with wisdom instead of fear. The process of rebuilding is slow, intimate, and sacred. It is not about recreating what was lost, but about constructing something aligned with your deeper truth. You will feel uncertain, fragile, and raw, but in this vulnerability lies your greatest power. You will begin to notice that your pain starts to soften into understanding. Your tears no longer represent defeat, but cleansing. Each day you reclaim a little more of your spirit, a little more of your voice, and a little more of your faith in yourself. The collapse strips away what you are not, so that what you truly are can emerge, stronger, clearer, more compassionate. In this stage, your task is not to chase the past, but to honor the transformation happening within you. You are being reshaped by invisible hands into the person you were always meant to be. Often, people fear collapse because it threatens their sense of stability, but what they fail to see is that stability without truth is stagnation. When you cling too tightly to comfort, life intervenes to awaken you. The destruction of the familiar is what pushes you into growth. Think of the forest that burns so new life can sprout, or the storm that cleanses the air. The same laws govern your soul. You must allow what is false to burn away, so that what is real can take root. Pain is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It shows you where your soul has outgrown its container. Rebuilding yourself after collapse is an act of courage. It means choosing to believe in your renewal even when all evidence points to ruin. It means standing in the ashes and saying, "I will not be defined by what broke me." With every step, you rediscover your purpose, your voice, and your inner authority. You realize that the fall was never your failure, it was your initiation. Life dismantled you, not to destroy you, but to reveal what could never be destroyed. You are not starting from zero, you are starting from experience. You carry the wisdom of everything you have endured, and that wisdom is your new foundation. You are not who you were before. You are something far deeper, wiser, and freer. So, when life collapses around you, do not curse the fall. Stand still and breathe. Look closely at the ruins, for they hold the blueprint of your rebirth. What was lost has cleared the way for what must rise. Trust that within every ending lies the seed of beginning. Rebuilding yourself is not an act of survival, it is an act of awakening. You are not being undone, you are being remade. Good luck on your journey of rebuilding yourself, and thank you for allowing your spirit to begin again, from truth, not illusion. Facing the shadow is the most intimate and uncomfortable journey a human being can undertake. It is the process of confronting the hidden parts of your own psyche, the thoughts you suppress, the emotions you deny, and the impulses you pretend do not exist. Every person carries a shadow, a side that holds everything they've rejected in themselves. It is formed from childhood, shaped by fear, shame, rejection, and societal conditioning. You learn early on what parts of yourself are acceptable and which must be buried to be loved or safe. Over time, these buried fragments become the unseen forces that shape your decisions, reactions, and relationships. They live in the darkness of your unconscious, whispering through your fears and patterns. Facing them is terrifying because it means admitting that the enemy you've been running from lives inside you. But the truth is, you cannot rebuild yourself while denying half of your being. Wholeness demands that you turn toward the shadow, not away from it. When you face the shadow, you begin to see how much of your suffering was self-created through avoidance. Every time you suppress anger, it festers into resentment. Every time you bury pain, it transforms into bitterness. Every time you deny weakness, it becomes arrogance. The shadow does not disappear because you ignore it. It grows stronger in silence. It influences your behavior from beneath the surface, leading you into repetitive cycles of conflict, failure, and emotional exhaustion. The same mistakes reappear because the unhealed parts of you are still seeking recognition. When you finally have the courage to look at the darkness within, you begin to understand its message. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your neglected self crying for acceptance. It wants to be acknowledged, not condemned. Healing begins not when you destroy your darkness, but when you embrace it with awareness and compassion. This confrontation is painful because it strips away your self-premiere. You may discover envy, anger, greed, or selfishness within you, traits you once projected onto others to avoid owning them. You begin to see that the people who trigger you are mirrors reflecting what you have not yet accepted in yourself. The person who annoys you for being arrogant might reveal your own need for recognition. The one who frightens you with their aggression may remind you of your own suppressed anger. Life constantly brings you encounters that mirror your hidden aspects until you finally decide to meet them directly. The shadow's purpose is not to destroy you, but to make you conscious. It invites you to stop living on the surface and dive into the depth of your being. When you meet the parts of yourself that you once judged or feared, you discover that they hold immense energy. That energy, once transformed, becomes creativity, passion, and power. Kalili Pronso. Facing the shadow also means accepting responsibility for your projections. You stop blaming others for your inner conflicts and start reclaiming your power. When you realize that every judgment is a reflection of your own disowned qualities, you begin to see life differently. You no longer see enemies, you see teachers. You no longer run from discomfort, you explore it. The outer world becomes a mirror showing you where healing is needed. This awareness transforms your relationships and your inner dialogue. Instead of trying to be perfect, you begin to aim for authenticity. You accept that you are both light and dark, kind and cruel, strong and fragile. This acceptance creates inner balance. You stop striving to be someone else and start becoming whole. As you integrate your shadow, you begin to feel a quiet sense of power growing within you. The energy you once used to hide your pain is now available for creation, purpose, and self-expression. You no longer need to pretend because you have made peace with who you are. The anger you once suppressed becomes assertiveness. The fear you avoided turns into intuition. The sadness you denied deepens your empathy. What once felt like flaws now becomes a source of wisdom. You learn that facing the shadow does not make you darker, it makes you complete. It allows you to live from your center instead of your wounds. This integration is the foundation of rebuilding yourself because it frees you from inner fragmentation. You can now act with integrity, speak with honesty, and love with depth. This journey is not one you take once. It is continuous. The shadow evolves as you grow. Every new stage of your life will reveal new layers of your unconscious to explore. The goal is not to eliminate the darkness, but to keep it in sight, to remain aware of it so it cannot control you. The more you face it, the more it becomes your ally. The light you gain from this awareness shines brighter because it has touched the depths of your own soul. You begin to understand that there can be no true self-rebuilding without this confrontation. To deny your shadow is to live half a life. To embrace it is to become whole. Good luck on your journey of facing the shadow within you, and thank you for having the courage to meet your hidden self with honesty, compassion, and strength. Transformation through awareness is the most powerful and liberating process a human being can experience. It is the quiet shift that happens when you stop reacting blindly to life and start observing it with consciousness. Awareness is not a skill you learn overnight. It is an awakening that unfolds gradually as you begin to see your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, not as who you are, but as things that move through you. The moment you become aware of something, it begins to lose its control over you. This is why awareness is the foundation of all healing. You cannot change what you refuse to see, and you cannot rebuild yourself while remaining unconscious of your inner pattern. When you turn your attention inward without judgment, you begin to see how much of your life was driven by automatic reactions, fears, habits, and beliefs inherited from the past. Awareness shines light into those dark corners of the mind, revealing the roots of your suffering and offering you the chance to transform it. Every emotion, no matter how painful, carries a message. When anger arises, awareness allows you to see what boundary was crossed. When sadness visits, awareness reveals what attachment or loss lies beneath. When fear surfaces, awareness helps you notice the illusion of control your mind is clinging to. Without awareness, these emotions become storms that control your behavior and decisions. You lash out, withdraw, or sabotage yourself without understanding why. But when awareness is present, you no longer drown in these emotions, you observe them. You can feel anger without becoming angry, experience sadness without being consumed by it. You learn that emotions are not enemies, but signals guiding you toward deeper understanding. Through awareness, you stop identifying with your pain and begin to see yourself as the witness behind it. That realization alone changes everything. You realize that you are not broken, you are awakening. Transformation through awareness is not about forcing positivity or suppressing negativity. It is about allowing everything within you to be seen clearly. Most people live as prisoners of their thoughts, believing every story their mind tells them. They identify completely with their inner dialogue, never realizing that the voice in their head is not the truth. It is conditioning. Awareness creates distance between you and that voice. You begin to observe it, to listen without being possessed by it. You notice how often it criticizes, compares, or worries. You start to see that much of your mental suffering is self-created. When awareness is strong, you stop believing every thought. You start questioning it. Is this true? Is this helping me grow? Is this fear or wisdom? That questioning breaks the spell of unconscious living. You gain clarity, and clarity is freedom. This process of awareness is not passive, it demands courage. To be aware means to face yourself honestly, to see not only your virtues, but also your flaws, your contradictions, your unhealed wounds. It means watching how your ego tries to defend itself through blame, pride, or avoidance. It means noticing how your fear hides behind anger, and how your loneliness disguises itself as independence. Awareness peels back these layers, revealing what lies beneath the surface. The more you observe without judgment, the more your inner chaos begins to settle. You stop trying to fix yourself and instead start understanding yourself. And understanding is what brings transformation. Change happens naturally when you see clearly. You don't have to fight your darkness. Awareness dissolves it. You don't have to chase happiness. Awareness reveals that peace was within you all along. As awareness deepens, you begin to experience life differently. You become more present. Ordinary moments gain depth because you are fully there. You start to feel the texture of life, the sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath. You become sensitive to the subtle energy of existence. You realize that much of your suffering was not caused by life itself, but by your resistance to it. Awareness teaches you acceptance. It allows you to flow with what is, instead of constantly struggling against what should be. In that acceptance, transformation happens effortlessly. You no longer need to control everything. You trust that every experience, even the painful ones, serves your growth. Life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a dialogue with your own soul. The beauty of transformation through awareness is that it does not require external change. It begins from within. The outer world may remain the same, but your relationship to it changes completely. You respond with consciousness instead of reaction. You forgive more easily, love more deeply, and detach more peacefully. You begin to understand others because you have understood yourself. Awareness brings compassion, not the kind born of pity, but the kind rooted in understanding that everyone is fighting unseen battles. This compassion becomes your natural state, and from it, a new self emerges, one that is calm, grounded, and whole. Transformation through awareness is a lifelong journey. There will be moments when you fall back into unconsciousness, when the old patterns pull you again. But every time you return to awareness, you strengthen the light within you. Slowly, the shadows lose their hold. You rebuild yourself not by becoming someone else, but by remembering who you truly are, the consciousness that watches, learns, and grows. Niwa Jinyawa. Awareness does not change who you are. It reveals who you were beneath the layers of illusion. Good luck on your journey toward transformation through awareness, and thank you for choosing to awaken to your own inner truth and rebuild yourself with consciousness and grace. The power of solitude is one of the most misunderstood aspects of rebuilding yourself. In a world that glorifies constant connection, noise, and distraction, solitude often feels like isolation or loneliness. But true solitude is not the absence of people. It is the presence of yourself. It is a sacred space where the outer world quiets down enough for you to hear the whispers of your soul. When life breaks you down, when confusion clouds your mind and the noise of the world becomes unbearable, solitude becomes the medicine that restores clarity. In solitude, you strip away the opinions, expectations, and energies that have been shaping your identity. You are left with nothing but your own essence, and that is where rebirth begins. To rebuild yourself, you must first return to that quiet inner ground where your truth lives, waiting patiently beneath the chaos. Solitude is not meant to be comfortable at first. When you are alone with yourself, all the suppressed emotions begin to rise. The silence exposes what you have buried under busyness and distraction. You begin to hear the thoughts you avoided and feel the pain you suppressed. That is why many people fear solitude, because it holds up a mirror to everything unresolved within. But if you can stay still long enough, something profound happens. You begin to realize that the silence is not empty, it is full of truth. The pain that surfaces is not meant to punish you. It is meant to be seen, understood, and released. In solitude, you meet the parts of yourself that have been neglected. Your insecurities, your desires, your wounds. You begin to reconnect with your inner child, the part of you that still dreams, still feels deeply, still longs to be free. The longer you stay with yourself, the clearer you become. The noise fades, and your inner voice grows stronger. That voice is the compass that will guide you as you rebuild. When you embrace solitude, you begin to see how much of your life has been built on external validation. You notice how often you shape your identity around other people's opinions, how you allowed relationships, status, or possessions to define your worth. Solitude breaks those illusions. It teaches you that you are enough, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping. It teaches you that peace is not found in approval, but in alignment. When you are alone, there is nowhere to hide. Not behind social roles, not behind achievements, not behind distractions. You see yourself clearly, stripped of pretenses. That self-honesty is the foundation of all true growth. It humbles you, but it also empowers you. You realize that you do not need the world's permission to exist fully as you are. You learn to love your own company, to befriend your own thoughts, to find comfort in your own silence. That is when solitude turns from loneliness into strength. In solitude, you begin to rediscover your creative energy. When the mind quiets, inspiration begins to flow naturally. New ideas emerge, new visions form, and buried dreams resurface. You begin to remember the things that once made your spirit come alive, the things that got lost in the noise of survival. Solitude reconnects you to your imagination and intuition. It becomes the sacred ground where transformation takes root. You may find yourself journaling, meditating, walking in nature, or simply sitting in stillness, and in those moments, you begin to rebuild from within. The outer world fades into the background, and you begin to live from your inner world again. You stop reacting to life and start creating it consciously. Solitude becomes your workshop, your sanctuary, and your temple. Through solitude, you also begin to understand others more deeply. When you spend time alone, you learn the language of silence, and that makes you more patient, empathetic, and grounded in your relationships. You no longer depend on others to fill your emptiness. You connect from wholeness, not need. Solitude teaches you to give love freely because it no longer comes from fear of loss or loneliness. You learn to enjoy connection without attachment and to walk away without resentment. This inner independence is one of the most powerful outcomes of solitude. It gives you emotional freedom, the ability to be with or without anyone and still feel complete. It transforms your relationships because you stop clinging and start understanding. You stop demanding and start appreciating. You stop chasing validation and start radiating peace. Rebuilding yourself requires this kind of solitude because transformation cannot happen in noise. You cannot hear your intuition when the world is shouting. You cannot find your truth while constantly seeking distraction. Solitude is the stillness in which you meet your higher self, the part of you that knows where to go, even when everything around you is uncertain. It teaches you patience, endurance, and faith. You learn that growth does not come from constant doing, but from quiet being. You begin to trust the natural rhythm of life, the cycles of silence, rest, and renewal. In solitude, you plant the seeds of your future self. And when you return to the world, you do not come back the same. You come back centered, stronger, and more whole. The power of solitude lies in its ability to rebuild you from the inside out. It reconnects you with your truth, reshapes your identity, and refills your soul with clarity. When you walk through solitude with courage, you find that you are never truly alone. You are in the company of your deepest self, and that is the most sacred companionship there is. Good luck on your journey of embracing solitude. And thank you for allowing yourself to step away from the noise of the world to rediscover the power, peace, and wisdom that live within your own silence. Integration, not perfection, is the real essence of rebuilding yourself. Most people spend their lives chasing the illusion of perfection, the flawless version of themselves that never makes mistakes, never feels fear, never falls apart. That perfection is not human. It is a mask that hides insecurity and fear of inadequacy. The true work of rebuilding begins when you let go of the fantasy of becoming perfect and instead aim to become whole. Wholeness is not about being pure light. It is about embracing both your light and your shadow, your strength and your weakness, your wisdom and your confusion. It is about accepting every part of yourself as necessary and meaningful. The process of integration is the process of returning to yourself, not as you wish to be, but as you are. When you stop fighting your imperfections and start understanding them, they lose their power to control you. That is when transformation begins. Perfection demands that you hide your flaws, but integration asks that you understand them. It invites you to look at your contradictions, the parts of you that seem to oppose each other, and bring them into balance. You can be brave and still be scared. You can be wise and still be learning. You can be strong and still feel vulnerable. Integration allows all of these truths to coexist. When you deny your weaknesses, you also suppress your depth. When you reject your pain, you block your capacity for empathy. The self you are trying to build cannot be strong if it is built on rejection. Real strength comes from inclusion, from bringing every part of you into harmony. Each emotion, each experience, each mistake carries a piece of your humanity. When you gather these pieces with compassion, you begin to rebuild a self that is grounded, authentic, and alive. The pursuit of perfection keeps you trapped in constant comparison. You measure yourself against others, against unrealistic ideals, against your own expectations. But comparison only breeds shame. Integration frees you from that trap. It helps you realize that you are not meant to be like anyone else. Your path, your pain, and your growth are uniquely yours. What looks like imperfection from the outside may be the exact element that gives your life meaning. The cracks in your soul are not signs of failure. They are entry points for light. When you embrace your imperfections, they become your teachers. They show you where love, patience, and humility are still needed. Integration transforms your flaws into wisdom, because it allows you to see their purpose instead of denying their presence. To integrate yourself is to be at peace with your contradictions. It is to understand that healing does not mean erasing the past, but learning from it. Every wound has shaped your perspective. Every failure has deepened your understanding. Every loss has softened your heart. These experiences are not stains to be removed, but threads in the fabric of your being. The more you accept them, the more beautifully complex you become. Perfection isolates you. It builds walls of pride and fear. Integration connects you. It opens your heart to yourself and others. When you stop pretending to be perfect, you give others permission to be real too. You begin to attract people and experiences that match your authenticity rather than your facade. You stop striving to be admired and start allowing yourself to be understood. Integration also means accepting the ongoing nature of growth. You are not a finished project, you are an evolving process. There will always be new lessons, new challenges, and new aspects of yourself to understand. You will have moments of clarity and moments of confusion. Integration means staying kind to yourself through both. It means knowing that even when you fall back into old habits, you are still growing. The goal is not to eliminate mistakes, but to remain conscious through them. Each setback is another opportunity to learn about yourself, to see which part of you still needs care. When you stop demanding perfection, you start living with grace. You stop being at war with yourself and begin to live in harmony with who you are becoming. When you integrate all parts of yourself, you develop a deep inner peace that no external achievement can provide. You no longer depend on perfection to feel worthy. You begin to appreciate your humanness, the messiness, the unpredictability, the raw emotion. You become real, and being real is what makes you strong. Life will continue to test you, but integration gives you balance. You no longer crumble when things go wrong because you no longer define yourself by a single part of your experience. You are not just your success, and you are not just your pain. You are the whole story. Integration teaches you to hold it all with awareness and acceptance. The beauty of rebuilding yourself through integration is that it brings authenticity. You begin to act from your center instead of your wounds. You no longer chase perfection because you realize that everything you were seeking was already within you, just waiting to be acknowledged. You understand that your power lies not in being flawless, but in being real. You live from truth rather than from fear. You learn to forgive yourself, to be gentle with your process, and to trust your timing. That is how you rebuild, not by erasing your imperfections, but by weaving them into the masterpiece of your becoming. Good luck on your journey of integration, and thank you for having the courage to embrace every part of who you are as you rebuild yourself into wholeness, authenticity, and peace. The rebirth of purpose begins the moment you rise from your own ashes and realize that you are not the same person who once fell. Life has burned away parts of you that were never truly yours, and now you stand before a new beginning, not defined by what you lost, but by what you have discovered within yourself. Rebuilding yourself is not about returning to who you used to be. It is about awakening to who you were meant to become. Every trial, heartbreak, and disappointment you have endured has not been random. It has been refining you, purifying your vision, and preparing you for a higher purpose. Pain has stripped you of illusions, and what remains is something real, something sacred, a soul reborn in wisdom. This is the stage where you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" That shift is the beginning of rebirth. When you go through destruction, you lose more than possessions or relationships. You lose identities. You realize that many of the roles you once played were built around other people's expectations. You might have chased dreams that weren't truly yours, lived by rules that suppressed your spirit, or held on to beliefs that kept you small. The collapse of all that brings an emptiness that feels unbearable at first. But that emptiness is sacred. It is the fertile ground from which purpose grows. When everything familiar falls away, you finally have the space to ask who you really are and why you are here. You begin to hear a quiet inner voice that was once drowned out by the noise of the world. It whispers not of success or validation, but of meaning. It tells you that your life was never meant to be a performance for others. It was meant to be an expression of truth. The rebirth of purpose begins when you start living for that truth. Purpose does not reveal itself through ambition or comparison. It comes through alignment. The alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. In your rebirth, you begin to live from your soul rather than your ego. You stop chasing approval and start following what feels alive within you. You notice that the things that once drained you now fall away naturally. The things that bring you peace, creativity, and joy begin to call to you. This is your soul guiding you back to purpose. You realize that meaning is not found in grand achievements, but in authenticity, in doing what resonates with your essence, in showing up as your true self. You may find that your purpose is not what you expected. It might be quieter, deeper, more personal. It may not be about changing the world, but about changing the way you live in it, with love, integrity, and awareness. That is the true rebirth. Not the creation of a new identity, but the awakening of your original one. The rebirth of purpose also comes with clarity about pain. You start to see that your suffering was never meaningless. Every wound has taught you something essential about compassion, strength, and humility. The things that broke you have now become the lessons that shape your mission. You may feel called to guide others through what you have overcome, or to create, speak, or serve in a way that reflects your transformation. Your scars become your credentials, proof of your resilience and wisdom. You understand that purpose is not about escaping pain, but about using it. When you transform your pain into understanding, you give it meaning. You stop being a victim of life and become a participant in your own evolution. You realize that your story, even its darkest chapters, can be a light for others. Rebirth also brings a deep sense of peace. You no longer rush to achieve or prove yourself because you have seen what truly matters. You understand that fulfillment does not come from reaching perfection, but from living with intention. You begin to act from the heart rather than from fear. You listen more, appreciate more, forgive more. Life becomes less about control and more about connection. Connection with yourself, with others, with existence itself. You start to notice synchronicities, moments of alignment that reassure you that you are on the right path. The more you follow your truth, the clearer your purpose becomes. It unfolds naturally, like a flower opening to the sun. You no longer need to force it, you simply allow it. As you rebuild yourself with this renewed sense of purpose, you become a living example of transformation. People feel your presence differently, not because you speak louder, but because you live more deeply. You radiate calm instead of chaos, confidence instead of fear. You inspire others not by preaching, but by being. You begin to understand that purpose is not a single mission, but a way of being, a commitment to live consciously, to express love, to create meaning wherever you are. It is not found in the future, it is lived in every moment. You choose to be authentic, kind, and aware. Rebuilding yourself with purpose means realizing that everything you went through was preparing you for this version of yourself, the one who no longer seeks light outside, but carries it within. You have walked through fire and emerged purified. You have faced your shadow, integrated your pain, and stood in your solitude. Now you rise, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. The rebirth of purpose is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of your true life, guided by awareness, anchored in authenticity, and fueled by love. Good luck on your journey toward the rebirth of your purpose, and thank you for having the courage to rise from your own ashes, to rediscover your inner light, and to live as the awakened soul you were always meant to be. When you decide to rebuild yourself, you are not simply putting the pieces back together, you are reshaping your entire being from the inside out. You have faced your collapse, met your shadow, awakened your awareness, embraced solitude, integrated your truth, and rediscovered your purpose. You have walked through the fire and learned that pain was never your enemy, it was your teacher. You now understand that healing is not a destination, but a journey, one that continues every day. You choose growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and peace over chaos. The person you are becoming is not a product of perfection, but of perseverance. You have seen your darkness and still chosen light. You have fallen and still chosen to rise. That is strength. That is transformation. That is rebirth. As you move forward, carry this truth with you. Every ending holds the seed of a beginning, and every wound hides a lesson waiting to unfold. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not lost, you are being guided. The world does not need a perfect version of you. It needs the real you, the one who has rebuilt themselves with courage, honesty, and love. Good luck on your journey of rebuilding yourself, and thank you for having the bravery to rise from your own ashes and become the person you were always meant to be.